Hi, I'm Chef Sherry Ronning, and I'm going to show you how to make some cheesy broccoli, cauliflower, and carrot soup in less than 30 minutes. So let's get started making our cheesy soup. We're going to do a vegetarian version of this popular soup of mine. I normally use a chicken broth, but today we're going to use a vegetable broth. You can interchange either, so whatever kind you like. We're gonna have, I have chopped carrots, so I chop them up in a chopper like this. You can hand do them if you would like, but the bigger they are, the longer it's going to take to cook. So we're trying to cook this very fast, so I just diced them up pretty small. You can always use a hand grater also if you would like to shred them. So a grater will work fine for this too. So then I have the cauliflower and the broccoli just cut up into small pieces. So it's all ready to go for us to just throw it in there. So then we're going to season it with just some salt and pepper. We're gonna make a small roux, so we have some butter and some flour. And then we're gonna finish it off with some milk, which I am just using the milk from our refrigerator, which is like a 1% or 2% milk. You can use heavy cream if you would like, or half and half if you want a thicker, creamier soup. But I just use what we have in the refrigerator. So, and then also I have shredded my cheese. You don't want the prepackaged cheese. I'm using sharp cheddar cheese, and I shredded it with the hand grater. This is something that you do not want to use the prepackaged because it is tossed in cornstarch, which doesn't help with when you're melting it. So I prefer to just use the shredded, or I also, when I make this soup, I use Velveeta cheese in place, but we're trying to keep this vegetarian today, so we're going to use the cheddar cheese on this. So let's get started. Let's check the time. So it's 5:23. We're going to start medium heat. I'm using a 32 ounce of the chicken. And this is, you can get in the store, so we're just gonna start that. I love how quick and easy this soup is. I've made it so many times for my family. They request it all the time. They absolutely love it. It is a pretty healthy soup with all the vegetables in it. So then we're just gonna add the carrots and the broccoli and cauliflower. And normally with this, I use about two carrots, average size carrots that I peeled and shredded for that. And the broccoli, I took like a crown of it, and I also cut a lot of the stem part off. I don't like the, you want the blossom part of it. You don't want to have a lot of stem in this. Some people might like it, but my family do not like a lot of stem. The same thing with the cauliflower. I cut it up into small pieces, but I also remove a lot of the stem because I don't want big chunks, because then it doesn't cook up as fast. And this recipe is meant to be fast, and so you want it to cook up really quickly. So while that is cooking, I'm gonna actually probably put the lid on it. The lid will help with the cooking to keep the heat in and get it start boiling and cooking. So you want to get the vegetables in here so that they are starting to get tender. You don't want them overcooked, because if you do that, by the time you add the flour, the roux in there with the cheese, you'll just have mushy vegetables, and you don't want that. You want to have pieces of vegetables in your soup. So then we're going to start on this burner. We're going to do more of a low heat, like a medium low heat. I'm going to add the butter. I'm adding, for this batch, I'm doing 6 tablespoons butter to 6 tablespoons flour. So we're just melting the butter. And then once the butter is melted, then I'm going to add the 6 tablespoons of flour into it. And then I'm going to cook it for just a couple minutes. And then when this is ready, then I'll add this roux. I'm making a roux that's going to go into the soup to thicken it just a little bit. So it's pretty easy. You know, if you have everything prepped up, it takes, like, I can have it done in less than 30 minutes. And I've tested it over and over and over again for my family, because a lot of times when we're trying to figure out what to eat, I'll look in the refrigerator and I'm like, oh, I have broccoli and cauliflower that I need to use up. So I usually have all the other pantry staple items. And so then I just whip this up, and 30 minutes later, it's ready for us to eat. So the butter's melting. So I want it to be completely melted before I add the flour. And so this is not boiling yet, so it looks like it's just starting to boil. And I like to use salted butter. You can use unsalted butter if you would like. It's just your preference, whatever you have. And then I'm just using all-purpose flour on this. So the butter's melted. I'm just going to add the flour to it and then stir it in. And it's still going to be liquidy. It's not going to be like really pasty. So then I'm going to cook this for about 2 minutes. And you don't want to cook it like at a high heat. You want just a little bit. It is boiling. And you don't need to really like brown it. With roux, you can cook it longer and get like darker colors on it and stuff. And this is not what we're doing with this, because this is going to have the cheesy texture to it. So basically we're just using the roux to thicken the soup at the middle before we add the cheese. So, and you don't have to stir it the whole time. I'm using a non-stick pan. This is a 1.5 quart size pan. This pan that I'm using here is a 6 quart pan, and this pan is perfect for this amount of soup. You'll get probably about 4 to 6 servings from this soup. There's like 3 of us in our family that I'm usually cooking for, and we usually have leftovers. So my family likes the leftovers, so that's a good. Okay. It's looking pretty good. It's boiling good. Okay, so it looks like this is just starting to boil a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn this off and just leave it right there till I need it. And I'm just gonna stir this, open it and just stir it a little bit. We still need to cook it just a little bit longer. One thing that I do like my family really likes when I make this soup is they like bread bowls. I do have a bread bowl recipe on my website, and the bread bowls are perfect for this cheesy broccoli, cauliflower, carrot soup. And so if you have time, I suggest you make them. They freeze well. I have frozen them. You individually wrap them in saran wrap, and you can bring them out and either let them thaw out for an hour or so, or you can pop it in the microwave for just a touch, just to thaw them out. But these are the bread bowls that I made earlier today. They're really easy to make. They're not very hard. Few ingredients: yeast, water, sugar at the beginning, and then you add flour, more sugar, just a little bit more sugar, and salt. Mix that up, and then you have the bread bowls. So then I take a sharp knife, you cut around to make pop the lid off. And then I just take the inside of this and then just pull it out. And I actually just set it aside, because that's usually what I eat. I let my family eat the bread bowls because I can't eat a whole lot, and then I just eat their bread scraps with it. So it's delicious. Look how soft these are. These are perfect bread bowls to fill with the soup. So you don't want to dig all of it out. I mean, if you want, but you want to be able to eat the bread bowl, not necessarily the whole thing, but you want to be able to, the cheese will soak up in the bread and you want to eat some of that. So I like to leave a little bit. There's enough there to where I can add a ladle full of the soup. And a lot of times my family will fill it up once, and then they usually will come back a second time and fill it up again and they eat off of it a couple times. So, and that's all you need for the bread bowl. So I'm just gonna let this cook. We're just gonna give it a few minutes to cook, and we will come back and I'll show you how to finish it up quick. It usually doesn't take too long to finish it up. All we need to do is add the roux to it, and then we add the cheese and the milk. Add a little bit of the seasoning. I will add some seasoning to it. Actually, we could probably add some seasoning right now. Why don't we do that? You can use any kind of seasoning that you like. I'm just using some fresh ground salt and pepper. If there's a favorite seasoning that you like, then use that. So, all right, we're just gonna let that cook then, and we'll come back in a couple minutes and check to see how it's doing. Okay, so we have the vegetables have been boiling for several minutes. I would say maybe about 6-7 minutes, and I do believe they're ready. So basically you want them to be tender. You want them fork tender. You don't want them falling apart, because they're still going to cook just a little bit longer. So now we're going to add the roux, and I'm going to use a spatula so that I get it all in there, and it's going to thicken up pretty good here. I'm going to actually turn down. I'm going to turn the burner down to a simmer, so it's at a low simmer. So I'm going to stir this in there, and it thickened it up a little bit, but it didn't thicken it up a whole lot. So then my next step is to add the cheese. If you're doing the Velveeta version of it, you're gonna want to cut them up into small pieces. I'm actually gonna turn it down just a little bit. You don't want it really, really boiling. You want it to just be simmering just a little bit. And so I'm doing the vegetarian version of this, so I'm using the shredded cheddar cheese. But you can, if you want to use a shredded cheddar cheese, you're more than welcome to. So I've done it either way with the cheddar cheese, or I've done it with Velveeta cheese, and both of them works. So I'm just going to add all the cheese, and this is 8 ounce. This is one small brick of cheese. So I'm going to add that in there, and I'm going to stir it in. And once the cheese is melted, you want to give it time to melt a little bit. Then I'm going to add the milk. You don't want to add the milk in too soon because the milk is cold and it's going to stop the cheese from melting. So you do want the cheese to melt before you add the milk in. And it looks like it's pretty good. It doesn't take very long to melt, for the cheese to melt in. It looks pretty good. So then I'm just going to add my milk in here, and this is going to make it creamy. And then at this point, you're going to want to check, maybe taste it a little bit and check for seasonings. If you need to add more seasoning, then go ahead at this point and adjust your seasoning to taste. So, and it is liquidy. It was thickened from the roux, and then once I add the milk to it, it does thin out. But you want to cook this and basically until the vegetables are cooked to your desired doneness. So you don't want them to be mushy. You want to have pieces in there, but you want them cooked. So you're going to just cook this a little bit longer till the vegetables are done. And then my suggestion is to let it cool down a little bit. Once it cools down a little bit, it will thicken up. That is one thing that I found with my family is, like, I make it and then they want to dive into it right away. But if I can make it, and basically, what did we start at 23? So we're still under the 30 minutes mark. The vegetables look like they're pretty good. You know, they're falling apart. I think I am going to turn it up just a little bit. I'm going to let this cook just a little bit longer, and then I'm going to turn it off and let it cool down a little bit, and then it'll thicken up. And so, I mean, it would be okay if you wanted to serve this right now. It is ready to eat. You can serve it, but my suggestion is just to give it just a little bit more time and let it cool down a little bit. So I think my vegetables are good. I'm actually going to shut it off. And I'm just going to let it cool, and then we'll come back and we'll try some. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're at about the 30-minute mark right now. I did let this cool down a few minutes, and it looks pretty good. It looks perfect. I am going to try a little bit. And this is where I said where if you would like, you can pour it into the bread bowl for a bread bowl soup. I'm just gonna try a dish of it. Look how amazing that looks. It is, the vegetables are cooked perfect. There's some that are super tender and some that are holding their shape, and it's not like all falling apart. I've had it where that has happened before, and I've actually taken some extra and cooked it up and got it a little bit fork tender and put it in there afterwards, just because I like the chunkiness of the soup. But it's all depends on what you would like. This is so good. This cheesy broccoli, cauliflower, carrot soup is amazing. You're gonna love it, and you'll want to make it again and again for your family. And don't forget the bread bowls. You're gonna love it. If you like this recipe, subscribe to my page, like the recipe, share it with your friends. Go to FromMichiganToTheTable.com and check out all my other recipes. I do have this recipe on my website. I also have the bread bowl recipe on my website. I also have Blackstone griddle recipes, smoker recipes, Midwestern cuisine recipes, all kinds of recipes for you to check out. So just go and explore and see what you like, and make sure to subscribe to my website, and you'll get all of the new recipes that I have in your inbox. So enjoy. I gotta have another bite. This is so good. You're gonna love it.